There was no rioting, there was no looting, there were no cars set on fire, there's no violence. There were vigils and prayers and people coming together to share the humanity. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I believe is the answer to this.
Could you imagine if a MAGA sniper shot Biden in the head, or shot a congressman at a baseball game, or assaulted a famous liberal media personality? There'd be martial law. We'd have our rights stripped, our guns seized. Cities would burn, and America First would be behind bars. But you don't respond to an attack on freedom by taking freedom away. All of us should speak our minds louder, without fear.
What do you say to people who are saying they see the assassination attempts in your life, they see the Minnesota lawmakers, they see what happened, they see what happened to Charlie?
I say you have to go forward. You just have to go forward.
Conservatives can't be afraid to go on a college campus and exercise their First Amendment right. They just can't. We can't be afraid to say men and women are different, that we believe in sovereign borders, that fighting racists and fighting crime isn't racist. And we have to go where Charlie went, everywhere, and talk to everyone, no matter where they're from, and what they look like, and what they believe. We have to force them to listen to us. And we have to confront them with facts and logic and science and reason, and do it in a way that's not mean-spirited. You don't remember how Charlie rolled. He sat back in his chair, and he smiled, and he listened, and debated like a real American. And he did it in person, surrounded by flesh and bone, not staring down the rabbit hole of the internet alone. That's where hatred brews.
Social media is a cancer on our society right now, and I would encourage people to log off, turn off, touch grass, hug a family member, go out and do good in your community. If this is a turning point for us, we get to make decisions. We have our agency. And I desperately call on every American, Republican, Democrat, liberal, progressive, conservative, MAGA, all of us to please follow what Charlie taught me.
This country needs a spiritual awakening. We need to go outside, hug each other, touch each other, talk to one another, and find our faith like Charlie did. Get married, have families, and live honest and decent lives with purpose. This spiritual reawakening will be a turning point. Charlie was the turning point. You can feel it. You can see it happening. Prove me wrong. Host of Timcast, Tim Pool, joins me now. Tim, we're awaiting Erica Kirk's remarks, which should be incredibly emotional and extremely powerful. In the meantime, tell us what you know about this shooter.
Well, I know much of what you have reported, what everyone's reporting, the statements that were made to The Guardian that he was a leftist. Someone has posted a video claiming to have gone to school with him, and they called him your typical Redditor. And anybody who's familiar with the social platform Reddit knows is dominated by liberal left ideology. But what's interesting now is there is this gaslighting campaign among prominent liberals to claim that this guy's actually a right-winger, that he's from a Christian conservative family who loved guns, and in fact, he attacked Charlie for not being conservative enough. And they've tried making similar claims pertaining to the man who tried to kill Donald Trump, Crooks, in Pennsylvania. But it is absolutely absurd. I've been dealing with this since the beginning of my career. I have dealt with physical assault attacks from the left, from violent extreme leftists. We called them the Black Bloc back during Occupy Wall Street. This was covered extensively when I was actually championed by the left for documenting Occupy Wall Street. And I was physically attacked by leftists. Even to this day, the death threats that we receive, the security that I have to have every day it's tremendous. And I don't see the same thing among my liberal counterparts. They don't require the same degree of security. So it's a gaslighting campaign, in my opinion, because in order to maintain the lie, the right is more violent. They do several things. They try to gaslight us in situations like this, that a conservative would shoot Charlie Kirk. He was the greatest tool in the arsenal of conservative values. And they go online, they use these NGOs, these nonprofits, to claim that a run-of-the-mill moderate conservative is the same thing as a white supremacist who wants to overthrow the government. They're so far removed from each other. That's the game they're playing now because they don't want to take responsibility for the rhetoric. The rhetoric they say every day when they accuse us of being Nazis or fascists or far right. They say this so that, as you've already pointed out, when the violence happens, no one likes a Nazi, right? But let me add this. I think the reality now that I've unfortunately had to deal with, that we are all seeing, is that this man who shot Charlie was much closer to mainstream Democrat than any of us wanted to believe. I woke up to posts on Instagram from people that I thought were my friends that I have known for years. And mind you, they're liberal, but I always considered them to be moderate liberals, not particularly active. And they're posting messages saying Charlie deserved it. He got the world he wanted. And they know who I am, and they know that he was my friend. And I don't understand how these relationships can be repaired. Even friends of mine who are not political, who are, telling me, I'm sorry, this happened, they're saying on their Facebooks, there are people posting celebrating this that they didn't even realize were political, and I don't know how we recover from that.
So how did that culture begin? You're familiar with the internet, you're familiar with Antifa, you understand the militancy that you see and you encounter when you go into these precincts. This kid, raised with good parents, it seems like, lives a normal life in Utah. How did he snap like that?
It's really hard to know, but I've talked about it quite a bit in my research. I'll try and keep it as succinct as I can. The algorithms of social media starting in the late 2000s, in LexisNexis data, you can see the words like racism, white supremacy, fascism skyrocket in their usage in mainstream newspapers and online publications. This was likely due to the big tech platforms prioritizing algorithmic feeds. That is, they were going to show you content that got more engagement. And to the average person, a story of injustice and racism generated anger. Anger is the most likely to generate some content to be shared. It's the most likely to make someone share content. And so what we instantly saw were websites that were posting articles, say, about politics, realize if they write about police brutality, racism, or some kind of social injustice, they will get substantially more clicks, shares, and in turn, money. There's a really good example. It was reported, Mike.com, for instance, originally started as a Ron Paul libertarian website. But as they began posting police brutality videos and made more money off it, the narrative shifted towards left-aligned ideology. Now, what do you think happens to a young man who is 13 years old on Facebook or on one of these other platforms, and the algorithm is showing them nothing but social injustice, leftist ideology, and they may be normal, they may be in a Christian conservative family, but every day they open their apps, whatever platform they be using, they see nothing over and over again. Racism, white supremacy, racism, over and over. And they see these messages from Democrats saying, we can't tolerate this, we can't let them win. Eventually, their whole world, they live in a paranoid, delusional state where they would accuse Charlie of being racist, of advocating for slavery, exemplified, in fact, by Stephen King posting that Charlie Kirk had advocated the stoning of gays, which he never did, and Stephen King was forced to apologize for. These ideas that they spread through lies and fake news are crazy.
You know why? Because the guy lives alone in a cabin in the woods in Maine and just stares at a screen all day. I mean, he's like the perfect example of someone getting spun up by these demonic forces online. That's very interesting analysis. Thank you so much. This is even a more challenging issue than I even understood. We appreciate it, Tim.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Public News founder Michael Shellenberger is here. So the country has mourned. We're continuing to mourn, but there's still an anger about how this could happen to someone like Charlie, not a politician, not an offensive individual. What should be the reaction to violence and the atmosphere like this?
Hey, Jesse, it's great to be with you. Look, I think there's a lot of things that need to happen right now. I mean, first and foremost is that we as a society need to call on those Democrat leaders who you highlighted earlier that have been dehumanizing, degrading conservatives, Republicans, the MAGA movement, Donald Trump in particular. Dehumanization is what precedes atrocities, and we've known that historically for a very long time. And that's what we saw happen. They need to renounce what they were saying about fascism, about Nazism. They need to take accountability that there are consequences for what they were doing, and it was to program an entire generation into an utterly absurd fantasy that the United States was being taken over by fascism. I mean, you saw it on the bullet casings of the alleged assassin himself. I think the second thing is that we need a de-radicalization program of colleges, of universities, of the schools. And what we know from past de-radicalization efforts around the world is that it's essential for people who have been radicalized to have a new identity that comes from a new purpose in life and part of a new community. And they also need, as part of that purpose, they need to come back to a story that is true about America, about why this country is special, why it's different from so many other oppressive societies in the past, the freest society that's ever existed. We need to aggressively push back against that. The universities need to do that. The colleges need to do that. There needs to be, and if the Democrats aren't going to do this, Jesse, then they need to be called out for it. Because, look, this shooter, this alleged shooter, he's downstream from, at least a decade or more of that dehumanization. It's a terrible tragedy. Obviously, he should be held accountable. But he was a result of those years of dehumanizing Republicans and conservatives.
What do you believe was the intention with this dehumanization, disinformation campaign? Was it to fuel the emotion of a large block of voters to get out and to turn out? Or was it actually to kind of brainwash them into feeling that violence is acceptable?
Yeah, I mean, Jesse, when you look at the history of it, of course, a big part of it is that the Democrats don't have an agenda. They don't have a positive agenda. The last big thing that they did was a big climate thing under Biden. There was health care before with Obama. They didn't have anything else. I mean, police violence has been going down, contrary to what the left had said.
As the darkness wants, it repels dark forces. But they had to, in their mind, put that light out. They thought that light was essential to, dampen, put out. But they've had the opposite effect.
Well, what we're seeing tonight is, and as you look at these vigils happening, Laura, they may have snuffed out the candle, they lit an inferno. And I disagree a little with Vivek's analysis here. This is, I would argue, as a father of college-age children, you have college-age children. For them, this is an RFK and MLK moment. He is a generational leader taken down in his prime, but the message has been magnified in a way that these young men and women feel empowered, and they're following his example. They're wearing crosses, they're going to mass, they're going to church services, they're praying, and they're allowing that then to flow over into political activism. We have yet to see the fruit of Charlie Kirk's life and his legacy, but let me tell you, it's coming. God bless him, God rest his soul, and strengthen this family.
Yeah, I think it leaves an incredible void, but an amazing opportunity. And I agree with you, Raymond. They had the opposite effect of what they wanted to have. Charlie might be gone, but not everybody who loved him. And they're doubling down, tripling down on what he believed in and what this movement is all about. Raymond, thank you very much. That's it for us tonight.
Fox News alert, Charlie Kirk's widow Erica is expected to speak any moment. This will be her first public address since her husband was assassinated on Wednesday. We'll bring you there as soon as Erica starts talking. Fox News alert, Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin finally in custody. 22-year-old Tyler Robinson was turned into authorities late last night in Utah by his own father. Tyler's dad recognized his son as the person of interest, and when asked, he fessed up to it. Sources say Tyler actually threatened suicide, saying he'd rather kill himself, which led the dad to call up his minister, who happened to be a U.S. Marshal. Robinson later surrendered and was booked into jail. The jail, 250 miles from the crime scene. That's right, the guy made it all the way home. So how'd he do it? New video shows Robinson leaving his sniper's nest and jumping off the roof. After that, he dumped his gun in the woods and hopped in a gray Dodge Challenger and drove 4 hours home. The governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, says the family did the right thing by turning their son in. Robinson's believed to have acted alone, but he left a hefty trail of evidence. Investigators found messages that he sent to his roommate.
These photos consisted of various messages stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel.
We now know more about the engravings on the shell casings. Listen.
Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices bulges, capital OWO, what's this?" ? Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist!" ! Catch! ! Up arrow symbol, right arrow and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Ciao Ciao," and a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO."
Bella Ciao is an anti-Nazi song from Italy. 3 down arrows is an anti-fascist symbol that's now associated with Antifa, and it's also a video game code for calling in a big bomb. Hey fascist, catch, well, he's calling Charlie a fascist and telling him to catch a bullet. And the bulges, OWO, is sexual role-playing slang used by furry fanatics. So who is this guy, this Robinson guy? He comes from a normal household, raised Mormon, parents are Republican. His father's in construction, and they live in a 6-bedroom home in Utah. He grew up hunting, which explains why he was a good shot. And academically, he was a straight-A student who got a college scholarship. But he dropped out of college after 1 semester, went back to live at home, and enrolled in a trade school, looking to become an electrician. A family member said he wasn't political until recently, when something snapped.
The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate.
One of Robinson's friends spoke to The Guardian and said he was really leftist, pretty left on everything, quote unquote. They said he became an extremist, started ranting and raving. Robinson apparently spent too much time online. His shell casings had internet slang, and he dressed up as memes for Halloween. Robinson spent hours and hours alone staring at a screen. A Christian kid in a conservative household raised by a loving mom and dad in Utah, not surrounded by radical leftists, but gets radicalized into fighting fascists online.
Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Fascism isn't just coming, it's already here.
This is what kicking the out of fascism looks like.
Donald Trump is a fascist.
Trump is a fascist dictator. As a fascist dictator.
Fascist chaos.
Fascist regime. Look, are they a threat to democracy? Yes. Are they going to take our rights away? Yes. Are they going to put people's lives in danger? Yes. Are they going to endanger the planet by not dealing with climate change? Yes.
So how did America confront fascism in World War II? We went to war. And today, Democrat senators have declared war again.
We're in a war right now to save this country, and so you have to be willing to do whatever is necessary in order to save the country.
Whatever is necessary to save the country? That's a call to arms. The left is losing the battle of ideas. Violence is a last resort. They're trying to silence us, so they can't lose the argument. They tried to cancel us, censure us, and at the extreme level, they've tried to kill us. They killed Charlie, shot Trump, shot Scalise. They almost shot Kavanaugh, assassinated a healthcare CEO, cracked Rand Paul's ribs, and firebombed Teslas, and are attacking ICE facilities. And now they're trying to wash the blood off their hands.
Me disagreeing with you, me calling you, a wannabe Hitler, all those things are like not necessarily saying go out and hurt somebody.
They called Trump Hitler, and then Ryan Ruth says Trump's Hitler and tries to shoot him. They don't see a connection? They call Charlie fascist and then someone shoots Charlie with an anti-fascist bullet? They know exactly what they're doing. They're giving the crazy wing of their party permission to take a shot. They're brainwashing an online army. The message is, these men are dangerous fascists. Be a hero. Take them out. They can't win at the ballot box, so they're using bullets. Charlie said it just a few months ago. Assassination culture is spreading on the left. 55% of liberals say it would be at least somewhat justified to kill Trump. Colbert's audience was just cheering about Trump dying. Tim Walz said he was secretly hoping that he woke up to the news of the president's passing. They're on a war footing. Charlie was killed in cold blood, and a sick faction of the left are reveling in it.
Do you support his death?
I do.
You support his death?
Charlie Kirk.
You support Charlie Kirk being killed?
Yes, I do.
On the day he died, you're here at a vigil
Yeah.
for Charlie Kirk and you support his death?
Do you support a Nazi?
No, I don't support a Nazi. Charlie Kirk wasn't a Nazi. You support his shooter?
Yep, sure do. Freedom.
You support Charlie Kirk's shooter?
Sure do. He does all a favor.
Would you shoot somebody like Charlie Kirk?
I would have killed him myself.
We need to politically destroy that culture. That whole movement should be crushed the way Charlie would want it to be, on election day, in the marketplace, in the media, at universities, wherever it shows its ugly face. This anti-fascist political strain must be defeated. The militaristic mindset eradicated, and anyone profiting off of any of that in the public square should be expelled from polite society. You cannot accuse someone of hate speech to justify murder. Hate speech is just speech that liberals disagree with. America should be like the Five and agree to disagree. Violent attacks on free speech are attacks on the founding of America. And this vile movement is treasonous. Celebrating political assassinations should get you ostracized. Dowd was fired from MSNBC for saying Charlie deserved to die. And so were dozens of Americans just in the last 48 hours who worked at schools and in government, even in the NFL. This isn't cancel culture. This is society healing and getting rid of a cancer. And we love every American and forgive people who've lost their way. But we're not going to give them any quarter, not an inch. Charlie died for the First Amendment. He died on the battlefield of ideas, just like the colonists in the Revolutionary War. And if we don't defend free speech, America's defenseless and dies. We can win this battle without shedding any more blood. A great example of how to handle this, look at Utah.
I want you to look at how Utahns reacted the last 2 nights. There was no rioting, there was no looting, there were no cars set on fire, there was no violence. There were vigils and prayers and people coming together to share the humanity. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I believe is the answer to this.
Could you imagine if a MAGA sniper shot Biden in the head, or shot a congressman at a baseball game, or assaulted a famous liberal media personality? There'd be martial law. We'd have our rights stripped, our guns seized. Cities would burn, and America First would be behind bars. But you don't respond to an attack on freedom by taking freedom away. All of us should speak our minds louder, without fear.
What do you say to people who are saying they see the assassination attempts in your life, they see the Minnesota lawmakers, they see what happened, they see what happened to Charlie?
I say you have to go forward. You just have to go forward.
Conservatives can't be afraid to go on a college campus and exercise their First Amendment right. They just can't. We can't be afraid to say men and women are different, that we believe in sovereign borders, that fighting racists and fighting crime isn't racist. And we have to go where Charlie went, everywhere, and talk to everyone, no matter where they're from and what they look like and what they believe. We have to force them to listen to us. And we have to confront them with facts and logic and science and reason, and do it in a way that's not mean-spirited. You remember how Charlie rolled. He sat back in his chair, and he smiled, and he listened, and debated like a real American. And he did it in person, surrounded by flesh and bone, not staring down the rabbit hole of the internet alone. That's where hatred brews.
Social media is a cancer on our society right now, and I would encourage people to log off, turn off, touch grass, hug a family member, go out and do good in your community. If this is a turning point for us, we get to make decisions. We have our agency. And I desperately call on every American, Republican, Democrat, liberal, progressive, conservative, MAGA, all of us to please, please, please follow what Charlie taught me.
This country needs a spiritual awakening. We need to go outside, hug each other, touch each other, talk to one another, and find our faith like Charlie did. Get married, have families, and live honest and decent lives with purpose. This spiritual reawakening will be a turning point. Charlie was the turning point. You can feel it. You can see it happening. Prove me wrong.